And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Yasha Silva. On this week's episode, a talented flugelhorn player, Chuck Mangione. Born in Rochester, New York on November 29, 1940, Mangione studied and later taught at the Eastman School of Music before launching a solo career that spanned 6 decades. He began in the hard bop style with his brother Gap's Jazz Brothers, later stepping into the spotlight with his rich, smooth jazz sound. He started gaining nationwide attention in the late 60s as a composer and flugelhornist with a melodic, emotional voice. While many artists pushed towards free jazz or avant-garde experiments, Chuck went the other way, creating warm, lyrical compositions that felt deeply human and instantly recognizable. He broke through in 1977 with Feel So Good, an instrumental single that climbed to the number 4 position on the Billboard 100 and helped redefine crossover jazz. He followed that with Grammy-winning albums like Bellavia and the visceral soundtrack Children of Sanchez. More than 30 albums, 14 Grammy nominations, 2 wins, and a playful celebrity turn on King of the Hill. He even performed at the 1980 Winter Olympic closing ceremony with Give It All You've Got. Chuck Mangione passed away in his sleep at his Rochester home on July 22, 2025. And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Yasha Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Chuck Mangione, his biography and best hits. During this hour, we're going to be talking about his biography. Born November 29, 1940, right in Rochester, New York, Chuck grew up in an Italian-American household where jazz wasn't just music, it was a way of life. His parents ran a local grocery store, but it was their passion for jazz that really stocked the shelves of young Chuck's imagination. He started off on piano like a lot of kids do, but it was the film Young Man with a Horn that convinced him trumpet was the way to go. And he didn't waste any time. With his brother Gap, a pianist, Chuck formed a band in high school and by his teens was already jamming in sessions with none other than Dizzy Gillespie and Miles Davis. Mangione's big break came in the 60s when he joined Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers, stepping into the trumpet chair once held by jazz royalty, Clifford Brown, Freddie Hubbard, Lee Morgan. He co-led the Jazz Brothers with Gap, recording several albums for Riverside Records and writing tunes that caught the attention of legends like Cannonball Adderley. In the late 60s and 70s, Chuck really carved out his lane, leading a string of groundbreaking bands, recording with orchestras and dropping albums like Friends and Love and Bellavia, which earned him his first Grammy win. His hit Feel So Good in 1978, that one hit number 4 on the Billboard charts. And it wasn't just charting, it was everywhere. You'd hear it on the radio, on TV, even in Olympic ceremonies. That flugelhorn became a soundtrack to an era. Chuck's compositions lit up the 76 Summer and 80 Winter Olympics, and he didn't stop there. He scored films like The Children of Sanchez, won another Grammy, and kept performing well into the 2000s. Outside of music, fans might remember Chuck from his animated turn on King of the Hill, playing a fictionalized version of himself with the flugelhorn always in hand. Chuck Mangione officially retired in 2015. He passed away peaceful in his sleep on July 22, 2025 at the age of 84. But the legacy, it's alive and well, in every soaring melody, every mellow groove, every moment when you hear that unmistakable tone and think, yup, that feels so good. And that was some insight into the biography of Chuck Mangione, and this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Yasha Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Chuck Mangione, his biography and best hits. Now it's time for some trending festival news. Get ready for one of the most exciting events of the summer. The 2025 Bix Jazz Festival kicks off on July 30th and runs through August 3rd across the Quad Cities. This festival is a long-standing tribute to jazz legend Bix Beiderbecke, and it's packed with 5 days of live music, community events and jazz celebrations. The festival features performances at historic and contemporary venues in Davenport, Moline and Milan, Illinois. You can catch everything from daytime concerts at the Putnam Museum to evening showcases at the Rhythm City Casino, where local bands like the Bix Youth Band and the Chicago Cellar Boys bring the sound alive. One of the highlights is the Celebration Bell Riverboat Cruise. Imagine cruising down the river, dancing and listening to live jazz from some of the festival's top acts. The festival also offers special moments like a graveside concert honoring Bix himself, plus Youth Jazz Band Awards and a jazz worship service at his family's church. Whether you're a seasoned jazz lover or just looking for a soulful way to spend a summer evening, the Bix Jazz Festival promises something for everyone. It's a perfect mix of jazz history and fresh, energetic performances. And that was some trending festival news on the Weekend Jazz Update with Yasha Silva. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about some of Chuck Mangione's best albums of all time. Stay tuned. This is the Weekend Jazz Update with Yasha Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Chuck Mangione, his biography and best hits. During this hour, we're going to be talking about some of his best albums of all time. Here's a quick recap of what's coming up. First up is Feel So Good, his 1977 breakout. You probably know the title track. It was a huge hit, reaching number 4 on the charts and becoming a jazz staple. But the album isn't just about one tune. It features some great solos from Chuck on flugelhorn, guitarist Grant Giesman, and saxophonist Chris Vadala. It's smooth, melodic, and really set the tone for Mangione's career. Next, we'll talk about Children of Sanchez, a powerful soundtrack album from 1978. This one won Chuck a Grammy and shows a more cinematic, emotional side of his music, mixing storytelling with beautiful jazz compositions. Then we move on to a more meditative moment with Chase the Clouds Away. Released 2 years earlier, this album is a very laid-back one. Its melodies floating gently and the mood is all about quiet reassurance. It's the kind of music that wraps around you on a rainy morning, especially with tracks like Song of the New Moon. That was Joe Holiday with Cuban Nightingale, Rick Braun with Sir W., Horace Silver with Song for My Father, and Chuck Mangione with Chase the Clouds Away. And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Yashanti Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Chuck Mangione, his biography and best hits. During this hour, we're going to be talking about some of his best albums of all time. Over the course of a career that spanned more than 5 decades, Chuck Mangione brought jazz to the mainstream without ever watering it down. He had a way of playing the flugelhorn, warm, melodic, sincere, that invited even casual listeners into the world of jazz. And today, we are going to revisit 3 of his most powerful albums, each one a different shade of the man behind the horn. Let's begin where most people fell in love with Chuck Mangione, the 1977 classic Feels So Good. Now, this album was a phenomenon. The title track became a top 10 hit on the Billboard 100, nearly unheard of for an instrumental jazz tune. But it's more than a hit, it's a feeling. There's something about the way that melody floats. It's breezy but never shallow. Chuck's flugelhorn soars with clarity and confidence, but there's a deep calm at its core. The song captures a kind of American optimism, even during a decade that was full of doubt. And beyond the hit, the album is rich. Maui Wawi brings a Latin jazz infusion that pulses with energy, while Hide and Seek is almost cinematic in its build-up. There's real structure here, not just improvisation. It's jazz for driving down the highway with the windows down, sure, but also jazz that rewards careful listening. Feel So Good wasn't just a song, it was a statement, and it proved that jazz could be joyful, accessible, and commercially successful all at once. 2 years earlier, Mangione released something more introspective, Chase the Clouds Away. This album doesn't demand your attention, it invites it. It's softer, slower, and filled with emotional weight. The title track, which was featured during the 1976 Olympics, is a masterclass in subtlety. It unfolds gently with careful piano textures, delicate horn lines, and the deep sense of space that Chuck used so well. Other tracks like Song of the New Moon lean into orchestration, with flute and string textures adding a chamber jazz feel. It's cinematic but also earthly. If Feel So Good was a bright summer afternoon, Chase the Clouds Away is a quiet autumn morning. This album didn't top the charts, but it sits quietly among Mangione's most emotionally resonant works. It's about mood, memory, and letting the music speak where words can't. And then there's Children of Sanchez. Released in 1978, this double album is Mangione at his most ambitious. It was a soundtrack for the film of the same name. But this isn't just background music, it's a full statement spanning genres, emotions, and moments of real power. The opening track, sung with raw urgency by Don Potter, is a bold mix of jazz, gospel, and Latin flavor. It sets the stage for a sweeping emotional journey. There are intimate horn solos, full orchestral builds, choral passages. It's dramatic but grounded. Consuelo's love theme, for example, is tender and mournful, a kind of lullaby for a broken world. Meanwhile, tracks like Be By showcase Chuck's signature warmth in new contexts, layered textures but always melodic. This album earned him a Grammy, but more than that, it revealed the full range of what he could do as a composer, not just a jazz musician but a storyteller. So whether it's the bright breeze of Feel So Good, the quiet reflections of Chase the Clouds Away, or the cinematic sweep of Children of Sanchez, Chuck Mangione gave us music that moved. So that was some insight into some of Chuck Mangione's best albums of all time, and you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Yashanti Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Chuck Mangione, his biography, and best hits. Now it's time for some trending festival news. Here's a concert event you won't want to miss. On August 15th, the Merrill Hidalgo Organ Trio is coming to Clements Place Jazz in Newark for what promises to be a truly memorable night. This trio is special for so many reasons, but the most striking is how it brings together 3 generations of extraordinary talent. Leading the group is 16-year-old guitar prodigy Merrill Hidalgo, whose incredible skill and maturity on the guitar have already earned him attention far beyond his years. Alongside him, the legendary drummer Roger Humphreys, now 81, whose rhythms have shaped classic recordings like Horace Silver's iconic Song for My Father. On organ and keyboards, you'll hear the soulful and expressive playing of 21-year-old Leonie Schubel, a rising star known for her deep groove and dynamic touch. Together, these 3 create a vibrant mix of youthful energy and seasoned mastery. The performance will cover timeless jazz tunes, mingling fresh improvisation with rich tradition, all within the warm, intimate acoustics of Clements Place, a favorite spot for jazz lovers in the area. And that was some trending festival news on the Weekend Jazz Update with Joshua Silva. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about more of Chuck Mangione's best albums of all time. Stay tuned.